looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today. The electrical workers of Local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeyman electricians from $32.50 to $42.50 per hour with paid benefits. And if you're looking for a new career, they're hiring apprentices at $19.50 per hour with paid benefits. Call the office at 402-423-4497 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
Davis Plumbing has been in business for over 15 years and is currently searching for journeyman plumbers to join their team. Experience is preferred, but not required for all applicants. When you join the team at Davis Plumbing, you'll receive full benefits package with paid time off. Join a small local business doing big things in Lincoln and surrounding areas. Apply today by calling 402-525-6922 or find them on social media. Davis Plumbing, locally owned and operated for over 15 years.
What's better than supporting your favorite radio station and eating delicious Nebraska-made products? Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska wants to highlight you, the listener, on the 93.7 The Ticket Wall of Fame at the store. Stop by the store at 48th and R in Lincoln and see their huge variety of small batch gourmet jerky. Or if you're not in the area and want to try some, go to smokinggunjerky.com and enter code EARLY for 10% off your purchase. It's the ultimate low-calorie, high-protein snack at Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
The dangers of secondhand smoke are well known, but what about secondhand aerosol, which is created when using e-cigarettes? Science already shows a secondhand aerosol can contain nicotine, heavy metals, and cancer-causing agents. Eliminating exposure to secondhand aerosol is an important step to keeping everyone safe. Breathe easier knowing the facts.
For help quitting, call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is On the Block with Strick and Austin. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer, Jay Foreman. Middle school basketball coaching legend and Duke basketball shooting coach in his mind, Austin Orman. Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America, on air and online at theticketfm.com. Presented by NEPCO. This is On the Block.
Oh, welcome in. Short show. It's a Tuesday. We got an hour to have some fun previewing Husker baseball. I'm Austin Orman. To my left, it is not Eric Strickland. It is not Jay Foreman. It is their primary antagonist in 93.7 The Ticket, Nick Sainer.
Hello, Austin. How are you doing?
Is that not your role to just kind of get under Jay and Strick's skin?
Maybe I need to calm down a little bit, so I'm not. That's not my label. I don't know if I want that to be a widely known characteristic.
And to be fair, I don't know if that's actually what you are, but I know both men have described you in similar terms. Yep. So that's mostly from that.
Here's what I would like to let the people know is that they are not innocent themselves.
Oh, far from it.
They are not innocent of themselves. This is not a one-way street. This is a two-way road that I antagonize them and they antagonize me. Mutual.
That it is.
There we go.
I would like to let the people know that On the Block is brought to them by NEPCO. Really appreciate NEPCO for their sponsorship of the show. NEPCO's operations span the state of Nebraska and supply the construction industry with the materials needed to construct buildings, streets, and highways. They've been doing it since 1908, fourth-gen family-owned and operated business. They've got over 1,200 employees in 26 companies throughout the state of Nebraska. On our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line, Jay Foreman says, facts.
Yep, he agrees with me.
Pretty much.
I would imagine that he listened. See, this is what Jay does. Sometimes he only listens like half of the statement. So I would imagine that he listened to what you had to say and agreed with it, got his keyboard fingers ready, started texting it in. He texted that in, and then I said what I said. Well, now it appears that Jay agreed with me that it's a two-way street that we antagonize each other.
Yeah, Jay's
joke's on you, Foreman.
Jay texts a little slow sometimes.
He does.
So
thank you.
The
Austin.
thoughts are in there.
Yeah,
the thoughts are in there.
right?
He knows what he wants to say, but
doesn't always know how to
the linebacker
translate
fingers, man. It's the linebacker fingers. They're jammed up. They're a little gnarly. So
Arthritis every now and then as he starts to hit the keyboard.
We appreciate Jay, but it's just fact. Sorry, not sorry, Jay. Husker baseball, Nick.
Yes,
we're just a few short days away. We got the starting rotation announced. It'll be Mason McConaughey getting the ball, to the surprise of hopefully no one in game 1 of the season against Cal Irvine. Ty Horn will get the ball in game 2. Big Ten tournament heroes Will Walsh and Jackson Brockett on Sunday, and then right away into Monday for Nebraska as they will travel from Mesa to Phoenix to take on Grand Canyon. So there's that little bit of news out of the way. Let's start a little big picture and see where this conversation takes us, though, Nick. State of the program, health of the program. Nebraska 40-22 last year. Big Ten Pitcher of the Year in Brett Sears. Big Ten tournament champions. Second place in the regular season was Nebraska, and then a 1-2 showing in regionals.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming off of a 40-win team. I have to mention this because this falls right in line with what we just talked about. Jay texts back in with a misspelled word, boof, instead of both. He said, "Boof of you are antagonists." So
it's true.
It fell right in line with exactly what we needed to talk about with Jay Foreman misspelling a word. But yes, on Husker baseball, I mean, you're coming off of a 40-win season. You and I were both down in Stillwater last summer watching that regional, a regional that was, we forget how loaded it was. You had a team that made the College World Series out of it, and guess what? It wasn't the team that hosted. It wasn't the Oklahoma State Cowboys, who over and over, Oklahoma State continues to host regionals. Sidebar here, continues to host regionals, can never make it out of their own regional. But last year you had a team in Oklahoma State who was the leader, or was the host site. But then you had Florida, who ended up making the College World Series with the power bat of Jack Caglione, now a proud member of your Kansas City Royals organization. And then you had a team in Nebraska as well that had 40 wins. And we talk so often about how teams in the Big Ten Conference sometimes get slighted because a 40-win Big Ten team is not viewed the same nationally as a 40-win SEC team.
Not even like a 32, 33-win SEC team sometimes.
Exactly. And the perfect example is Florida if we want to continue with the last year's example. Now, I think this is an important year for Nebraska because it's important for them to show that they have grown. Both the staff and the roster has grown from not only last year, but after their appearance in Arkansas, because we remember, Austin, the letdown the following year was at times. And I think a lot of it was, it's a couple of different stories. I think the narrative with 2021 is that you graduated a lot of guys. You had a veteran core with guys like not only Spencer Schwellenbach, who was a second-round pick, but you also had a couple of big outfielders that were very, very important to that roster.
Cade Povich,
arm on the mound,
Roach.
Right? There were a couple arms in that you had to move on from. And then I think the following year, you didn't know what you wanted to be. You had a good couple of guys coming back, most notably Bryson Max, right? But did that fit with what Nebraska's roster needed to do? And I still don't know if that was quite there yet. So to that point, I'm really excited about this year because this is a direct, not even one-off, just rebuild or improvement opportunity off of last year's roster because you have a lot of the same faces coming back.
That is a huge part, I think, in the step in the next direction for the program, because the example I'm going to use is Nebraska men's basketball here, right? Coming off the NCAA tournament appearance last year, had to remake the team in a lot of ways, right? It's not the same roster. It's not the same identity, and credit the team for getting back on beam after the 6-game losing streak.
Yeah.
But what Nebraska baseball can do that Nebraska basketball can't do is have that continuity, right? They can replace, they can reload instead of rebuild. Now, that's got to be done in the right way. How many teams have we seen return, 7 of the 9 guys in the lineup, for example, or turn, Obviously, Mason McConaughey, their number 2's got to take a jump up to the ace role that Brett Sears filled last year. But Will Walsh pitched a lot of innings for Nebraska. Jackson Brockett has taken the ball in some big spaces. Drew Christo can fill in. Jalen Worthley. We know a lot of the names on this team. You just hope they don't get complacent. And that's not necessarily Will Bolt's personality, but we do have to make sure that as observers of the program, there are those signs of healthy competition, right? Not friction, but guys going out there battling for jobs day in, day out, where starters are comfortable. They're not always looking over their shoulder, but they know they have to perform so they don't ride the pine for a game or two here or there. And that's where, Nick, I go back to your point, too, about that transition from 21 to 22. A lot of people would say, okay, since it's the same team, they got to take the next step. They got to go with a winning record in regionals, whether or not they make it out. But I think for so many Nebraska programs, just sustaining success is the next step more so than taking the next step. To look at that Husker basketball example again, it would have been great to see this team, come in and look like it was a surefire 20-game winner, 22, 23-game winner. That hasn't been the case. Given how things ended for Nebraska baseball in 22, the last time they looked like that in a regional, to me, if they are able to do that again, hopefully look better in regionals than they did, right? Going 1 and 2 with both losses to Florida. If Nebraska baseball is able to sustain success, be a regional team for 4 or 5 years in a row, because that's going to be a new group of players on both the position player side and the pitching side. Sustain success. It is not linear growth in a program. We expected that from Husker basketball, wasn't the thing. I don't think we can expect just a linear up for Husker baseball, especially with the nature of the game. It would be nice to see this team take a leap, but when we look big picture, Nick, what difference makers did Nebraska add to the roster? Because I'm not as worried about this team in the regular season, right? I think it's going to find a way to win games. Where Nebraska will take the next step is when it gets more and more of those national level, regional level separators instead of just having good depth to make it through a regular season in good shape in the Big Ten.
Well, I think a lot of that, there's a couple of angles to this. I think a lot of that comes on the bump, right? Like we saw, as good as Brett Sears was last year, Big Ten pitcher of the year. Yeah. As good as he was, we had the conversation. I remember us having the conversation on the post game show after Nebraska fell to Florida in game 1 of the regional, of that was an SEC 2 or a 3. And that's not a knock on Brett Sears. We're not trying to knock Brett Sears.
No. MLB draft pick.
That's where you just you really, we are blinded by the level of competition that Nebraska plays for 75% of the season because of the conference that they are in, or because of their non-conference matchups. That's why a week like this week and the following week are so important to kind of have an idea of where Nebraska could be when it comes to it. Now, there's a lot of growth that can certainly be made over the course of a regular season, and there should be, and we saw it last year where Nebraska maybe didn't start the season too great, or they had some middle of the week bumps in the road throughout the course of the year, but by the end of the year in the Big Ten tournament, Nebraska was clearly the best team in the conference. Through it all, though, I think it starts on the mound. Can you throw strikes, and can you weather storms? And what I mean by that is, if you allow a walk, how good are you at avoiding it from compounding into either multiple free passes or allowing hits to be made off of you where guys get around and score? Because it's not the hits that bother you, it's the walks and the errors. So I think it starts on the bump. But then to counteract that, Nebraska, the way I think they're going to play, like you said, is going to set them up really well for the regular season. They're going to need some guys to step up, though, for the postseason.
And that's where the other example that I would point to in college basketball, again, it's kind of my wheelhouse. Sorry if you've heard that one before, but Gonzaga, right? Think about how Gonzaga got there, right? Gonzaga made a tournament run under Dan Monson, hands it over to Mark Few, and then he just keeps building. Some people still consider Gonzaga a mid-major. They're out of their league, they're out of their depth. They're not. Gonzaga is a power program in a mid-major league right now. But that's essentially what Nebraska baseball should be shooting for, because you're always going to have those questions. Well, just how good is Big Ten baseball? Yeah, they added West Coast teams, but it's not the same as it would have been, 10 years ago, let alone 20 or 30 years ago. If Nebraska can get to a spot as a program where it is consistently, wearing a home uniform in the first round in the Big Ten tournament, that's a step in the right direction. But just doing it 2 years in a row, that's not good enough. For Nebraska to take that next step, prove you have a formula that works over the better part of a decade in Big Ten baseball, right? And I'm not saying fans shouldn't expect trips to Omaha for the College World Series, but here's the thing. You and I saw it up close and personal.
Yeah.
There is a difference in talent level. There's a difference in approach. So right now, the biggest thing for Nebraska is, yes, hosting a regional needs to be a big picture goal. That needs to be what's motivating this team because it is absolutely on the table for it. But just before you even consider anything more, have a good regular season. Prove that you have an identity that you're going to stick to, a formula that works for, like you said, those 75, 80, 90% of your games where that's going to matter. And then when you have opportunities like Nebraska has down in Scottsdale, like Nebraska will have down in Frisco as well, prove you can hang. Take advantage of those opportunities because that's how, say, Gonzaga made its mark. Yes, it was the postseason runs when they were, maybe underseeded or when they were Cinderella and the slippers still fit and all that. But what Gonzaga started doing when it became a power program is something Nebraska baseball already has the market cornered on. Playing marquee non-conference games early in the year, getting people's attention, right? Last year, Nebraska had Baylor, down year for them, but that's a Big 12 team. You beat them. Had Texas Tech, basically dead to rights.
They did.
Before Tech came back and won that one. And should have beaten Oklahoma team that was just in the College World Series.
They were up on Oklahoma for a good chunk of that game.
Yeah. And then in the ninth, it was a ball that scooted under the glove and off the glove that ended up walking it off for the Sooners. Nebraska has done such a good job of capitalizing on its Dave Van Horn era success and continuing to get these marquee games, which a lot of Northern programs struggle to get.
Yeah.
So now and always, can Nebraska take advantage of those and then parlay that into a successful conference season and be consistent in that way?
I think a lot of it too, as we look big picture and how Nebraska wants to play. We got so infatuated back after 2021 with the gritty over pretty that's mantra, and that's fine because I think there's a piece of that Nebraska does as a program needs to play with because of their geographic location and so on and so forth. I look at to ask you asked me the question earlier, and I kind of want to build off of that. Is what travels best? So much in college baseball when you get to the postseason is about where you have to go play. Yeah. We talked about it. Oklahoma State's ballpark fit Florida extremely well because Florida was a power hitting team that it played like a wiffle ball field. And you could just kind of throw your bat out there at times and it would go over the fence. We saw it work out to Florida's favor. Heck, we saw it work out to Nebraska's favor a couple of times too. But consistently, I think about, okay, what travels if you're a college baseball team? And I look at it as and maybe this is a fault of mine, I'm a traditionalist, to where it's pitching, defense, and the ability to manufacture runs. Doesn't matter how long the fences are. Doesn't matter what the ballpark plays like. If it's a pitcher-friendly or if it's a hitter-friendly ballpark. Doesn't matter if you can throw strikes. Doesn't matter if you don't commit errors. That the dimensions of the field doesn't matter or doesn't impact your ability to apply pressure offensively when you're on the base paths. It doesn't like those things travel no matter whether you're playing at Haymarket, TD Ameritrade, or down in Oklahoma City or in Stillwater. Excuse me. It doesn't matter. And so if you do those things incredibly well, you're going to win more than you lose. And I think going into this season for Nebraska, as we look at the roster makeup specifically, it builds off of last year. They added a power hitting piece, maybe not to the extent of a Florida, but they added a couple of power hitting pieces and they return a good chunk of their pitching staff that like we said, needs to take the next step up.
And that's where, again, it goes back to what's more important, building for the postseason or building to get through the regular season. Still, the majority of your games are going to be in the regular season. And we see Nebraska programs, not just baseball, have this conversation all the time, right? Like even football. Does Nebraska football need to continue to go after these top 300, top 150 guys, or should they set their sights somewhere else, not waste their time on higher profile guys that they're probably less likely to get? There's not a right answer. There's not a wrong answer. But that's where I think Nebraska can continue to build, Nick, is that if it knows what it wants, it can also accept the limitations of what it can get, and then has to capitalize when it does get maybe a different caliber of player, like a Max Anderson, who was not a Nebraska commit until A&M overfilled its roster.
Yeah,
I mean, guys came back because of COVID, right?
Yeah, I was say thanks to COVID, Max Anderson was a Husker.
And that's huge. Nebraska took advantage of that in 21.
Very much so.
But then they weren't able to continue that in 22 around Max Anderson and Bryce Matthews. But my point
is...
he
changed positions, too.
Right, a couple times.
Right. Yeah, he changed primary positions, yeah.
It was weird. But these SEC and ACC teams that you see in Omaha more often than not have power pretty much 2 through 6.
Yeah.
And even their 7, 8, 9 guys, here and there. But for Nebraska, it might have to look a little more like a quote unquote traditional lineup. Speed on base first, bat control second, best hitter third, power at 4 and 5, and then fill out 6 through 9 according to matchup.
And you can treat 9 as like a secondary leadoff to where if you're late innings and you have 8-9-1 or 9-1-2 due up, you're not sacrificing an at bat.
Because I think that Nebraska can have the best of both worlds, where it adds a power bat in Cale Frost, needs a good year from Gabe Swanson. We'll see what sort of power emerges from, say, a Cale Sanderson, or if Ty Stone is a guy that gets more opportunities and can put the ball over the wall. Because we saw firsthand last year the power of the long ball. Nebraska can't just say, no, we have to manufacture runs. Look what Gabe Swanson did in the regional. Look at what Josh Karen did in the Big Ten tournament, right? Plain and simple, in college baseball nowadays, you need someone that can spark the offense with a long ball.
Yeah.
Maybe not as important in college baseball as it is in Major League Baseball, but Nebraska is going to have 2, maybe 3 of those guys in its lineup at any given time. SEC guys, the best lineups, will have 4 or 5, which is where it's probably more consistent for Nebraska to trust in the developmental process of Rob Childress, identifying which arms are power arms, situational arms, and building through pitching. But then if that's the case, you've got to develop not just a Big Ten one, but a national caliber one. Can Mason McConaughey be that? We'll certainly see. Again, not a knock on Brett Sears, who was really good, who gutted through it against Florida. Wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. But if that's going to be Nebraska's identity, you can have pitching depth, but then you need someone to either get on a heater at the right time on the mound, CC Sabathia style for the Brewers, or you're going to need to tick it up on offense a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right in this, that Nebraska, you're going to look for guys to step up. And I know throughout the course of the next couple of minutes, we'll talk about some of those guys that we think they are. I just wonder, so you mentioned we have the starting rotation for this weekend for Nebraska. Mason McConaughey is going to start it off, according to D1 Baseball, the rated ninth prospect for the Major League draft coming up in the Big Ten Conference specifically. There's a lot of excitement, I think, around Mason McConaughey. Now, here's the thing. He
just looks like a workhorse. That's
he does. And there's a lot of potential around Ty Horn, who's going to be getting the ball on the bump against 16th ranked Vanderbilt on Saturday night at 7 p.m. By the way, that game on MLB Network. And so 7 p.m. Saturday, make sure you got your clicker onto the Major League Baseball Network, because Huskers and the Commodores go into battle there.
Second time in 2 weeks, Nebraska will be featured on the MLB Network.
That is correct. But what I was going to say is, I am more concerned about, and this is where we need to trust in the Rob Childress development, because you look at guys like Will Walsh, especially, who is going to get the ball in Game 3.
Yeah.
Will Walsh will get the ball against San Diego State. And one thing that Nebraska struggled with this is dating back to even 2021. They struggled to find a solid and consistent Sunday guy.
Yeah.
And at times, even a number 2. Like, you go through it, you had Chance Roach, who was really, really good. Then you had a little bit bigger dude, Jace Kaminska, who was fine, every now and then. But even going back to like Shea Shanneman, he was good as a Sunday guy, but who can go out there and consistently get you 4?
Well, on Championship Sunday.
Yes.
That's their thing.
But who can go out and consistently get you 4? When you're trying to wrap up a sweep opportunity against a bad Big Ten opponent, who can avoid you from, who can keep you from getting a bad loss and just go out and shove for 4 or 5 innings and let your back end of your bullpen do the rest of the work, because your guys on Friday and Saturday took care of business. Nebraska struggled to find that.
Yeah.
Will Walsh, we have to see him turn it on before the Big Ten tournament. What he does in the Big Ten tournament is nothing short of miraculous, in all honesty.
2 years in a row now.
It's 2 years in a row. How can we get him to have those performances in April? That's what needs to happen.
Same with Jackson Brockett, who's had some of the biggest moments, in recent, the last couple of years of Husker pitchers.
Yeah.
And then is also completely blown up from time to time as well. Let's take a break here. Let's talk about some of those players who don't maybe face a make or break season, but are some X factors for Husker baseball. This is On the Block. Austin Norman, Nick Sainert, brought to you by NEPCO.
Follow Austin Strick and On the Block on Twitter at Austin Orman, eStrick20, and On the Block 93.7. More of On the Block coming up.
Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com.
A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. The last few years have been wild, but we've been here for you through all the ups and downs, and we'll be here for you when you need us the most, for all your travels and for your day-to-day driving. With winter conditions causing problems all over town, the last thing anyone needs this year is constant car troubles. Let us help you drive in peace and make sure you drive to work and to winter destinations safe. A1 Automotive, 11th and L Street downtown, always honest answers.
Davis Plumbing has been in business for over 15 years and is currently searching for journeyman plumbers to join their team. Experience is preferred, but not required for all applicants. When you join the team at Davis Plumbing, you'll receive full benefits package with paid time off. Join a small local business doing big things in Lincoln and surrounding areas. Apply today by calling 402-525-6922 or find them on social media. Davis Plumbing, locally owned and operated for over 15 years.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
A new year means it's time to try new things. If you haven't tried Fierce Cheese Spread yet, the time is now. For the days you don't want to go to the gym, don't worry. Fierce Cheese Spread is there to cheer you up. And for the days you do get to the gym, why not celebrate when you get back with the best dip around? Get to your local grocery store today and load up on Fierce Cheese Spread. No event or party is complete without it on your table.
At Lincoln Family Chiropractic, they believe everyone deserves to live a pain-free and active life. Whether it's neck pain, shoulder pain, or lower back pain, Lincoln Family Chiropractic specializes in customized care for every patient to promote faster healing, allowing you to get back to an optimal life. Lincoln Family Chiropractic's team specializes in treatments such as dry needling, cupping therapy, and traditional adjustments. Give Lincoln Family Chiropractic a call today, 402-484-5166. Visit them online at lincolnfamilychiro.com or in person, 1 block south of 70th and A Street in Lincoln.
Hey volleybalfans, this is Laura Dijkema, national player of the Netherlands and now the setter on Omaha's newest professional team, Love Omaha Volleyball. League Volleyball is bringing the heat this year. Don't miss your chance to see Olympians, national players and national champions right here in Omaha from now through April. We can't wait to see you cheering for us in the stands. Visit lovboma.com to buy single match tickets to see me and Love Omaha Volleyball in action. Go Big Green!
Automotive Solutions is Lincoln's one-stop shop for all your vehicle needs, from vinyl wraps to engine repair and maintenance. Automotive Solutions offers fleet services, as well as printing and graphic design for vinyl applications, plus installation of vinyl for boats, trucks, cars, and anything else you want wrapped. Perfection is their standard, and they never settle for less. Call today at 531-249-5600 or go to automotivesolutionslincoln.com to learn more. That's Automotive Solutions, 2024 Southwest 5th Street in Lincoln.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue.
Hog
Hog Wild has a delicious way for you to enjoy beef brisket. It's our open-faced hot beef sandwich. We start with our grilled Texas toast. Add a scoop of creamy mashed potatoes. Load them up with some tender Hog Wild beef brisket and top it off with our tasty brown gravy. It's absolutely delicious. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
But don't be late, we close at 8.
Now back to On the Block with Strick and Austin on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
It's Ebonics. That's what we're being told. Welcome back into On the Block. Austin Norman and Nick Sainert with you. I appreciate your guys' thoughts and your comments here on the Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. Thunderknot Collins, Cubsker, Bill, and Bennett. Really appreciate you guys chiming in as well. Talking some Husker baseball here in our 1 hour version of On the Block. This segment brought to you, of course, by our friends over at Heartland of Nebraska Windows. They offer a free estimate, full window replacements, all vinyl triple pane windows, and a lifetime warranty on everything while keeping their prices affordable. Based in Hallam, Nebraska, Heartland of Nebraska Windows is locally and family owned. They've even got their own team of installers. You can give them a call today for more info at 402-430-3852 or visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. All right, Nick, we got some of the big picture stuff out of the way. Let's move in, maybe hone in on a few different players here. Let's start on the position player side. 7 of the 9 starters from regionals last year return for Nebraska. Are there any of those guys that you think could take a step forward or need to take a step forward to help this Nebraska team maintain or improve on its record from last year?
Well, I think without trying to sound, like we're trying to harp on it too much, I think Dylan Carey's one that instantly comes to mind. I mean, we were talking about his statistics and some of his notes from last year. Played in the most games on Nebraska's roster, played in 60 plus games as your everyday shortstop. However, led the team in errors, and part of this is volume,
a lot
right?
of chances too,
right? Yeah, a lot of opportunities. That's important to keep in mind here. But led the team in errors, led the team in strikeouts. And there was one more, led the team in pickoff. How many times he got picked off? So there's something there to where he was a highly touted prospect coming out of the state of Colorado. Dylan Carey was, and has been kind of for his 3 years been at that shortstop position or even third base, I believe is where he started because Bryce Matthews was there. Almost said Bryce Williams. Bryce Matthews was at short. And so through that though, it's now time for him in his junior year to take a step forward, right? There were a lot of times we talked about the order from top to bottom, the batting order. Dylan Carey fits really well in that 7 hole, or maybe even that 6, depending on the lineup, right? Or depending on the matchup. But if he's going to be such a high strikeout guy, he's not in a part of the lineup where you can afford to have them strike out 3-1 when you're getting a hit or getting on base, whether that comes via walk or a base knock. It doesn't matter. So it's not like he's hitting 20 home runs where you can say, yeah, okay, he's striking out this percentage of the time, but he's able to counteract that with his home run numbers or his power hitting or his RBIs. That wasn't necessarily the case the last year. He's got to figure out a way to be more balanced. And that I go back to manufacturing runs, the ability to move guys over, to just do the job, continue to move the line along after Gabe Swanson's probably 5th in the lineup.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have somebody, who's somebody like Cale, I don't want to say Cale Frost. If you're able to have Ty Stone as a DH at 7 hole or whatever it might be, to be able to keep that seamless transition from the 5 hole to like the 7 hole.
Right. Carey was second on Nebraska's team with 25 extra base hits last year, according to my rudimentary math, behind Josh Caron, who led Nebraska with both 16 home runs, I guess was third in doubles. Carey led Nebraska in doubles with 18. Then Rhett Stokes actually had 16 doubles ahead of Caron's 15. But at this point, it just kind of feels like Dylan Carey goes up there without an approach sometimes, not knowing what kind of hitter he wants to be. If he wants to lean into power and swing for the fences, swing for extra base hits and slugging percentage, that's fine. I mean, on the year, 421 slugging percentage, that's not bad out of the shortstop position.
Certainly not.
But then the walks have to tick up. 17 walks and 8 hit by pitches, I guess if you want to factor those in 61 games, in the second most at bats on the team with 235. If you're going to be a power hitter, That's fine if strikeouts are there, but then the patience has to go up as well. When you get your pitch, don't miss it, and then you're sitting on pitches that aren't your own. Or can we see Dylan Carey try to use his athleticism, put the ball in play a little bit more, shorten up? Will Bolt loves that sort of approach, right? Make the defense make a play. I think Dylan Carey's a great candidate. The first one for me, Nick, is more of a breakout / X factor candidate, and that's Case Sanderson, who actually ended up with a 450 slugging percentage last year, second highest average on the team at 338, playing in 54 of the 62 games. Little bit of pop, 3 homers and 6 doubles for Case Sanderson, on base percentage of 470. That's a guy we saw hit in the top third of Nebraska's lineup in regionals. He tore it up over the summer circuit as well. I could see Case Sanderson playing in the outfield where they had him in regionals, and that was fine. I think there's a spot for him there. But I still think Nebraska's best lineup configuration is with Case Sanderson at first base. Yeah. I think if his bat has taken that much of a step forward, Nebraska has, 3.5, 4.5 proven outfielders they can cycle through depending on matchups. And I think the lineup fits together best if Case Sanderson is just mashing at the plate and is a decent to above average defensive first baseman.
So I look at, and we were sharing and talking about an athletic article that was written earlier today about what stats, hitting stats specifically, coaches value and prioritize. And one of them was like strikeout to walk percentage, or just strikeout percentage as well. Just to put a number to it, Dylan Carey and Case Sanderson, they were both pretty similar in their strikeout numbers, their ratio to at-bats, where it's Case Sanderson struck out about 26% of the time. Dylan Carey struck out about 28% of the time. And you sit there and go, man, that's one out of every 4 at-bats. And Nebraska as a team, that it felt like their strikeout numbers were pretty high last year. So you as a team, you can tick that down a little bit. But then you look at a guy like Josh Caron, who, yes, 5th round MLB pick. I don't want to downplay that. Don't want to act like I'm just forgetting that. But Josh Caron, who led the team in at-bats, had 51 strikeouts, but once again, that percentage goes down to just a little over 20%. So you're talking about 1 in 5 at-bats. Can the team collectively figure out a way to lessen their strikeout numbers? Because it might not feel like much, but throughout the course of the season, what it does for not only the continuity of a lineup, but hopefully some internal confidence for a guy like Dylan Carey, or for a guy like Case Sanderson, because they can both be in this conversation since they're the 2 guys that we mentioned. If they're able to allow or figure out a way to get their strikeout numbers down even a little, doesn't need this dramatic drop off. We're not asking to have, hey, go out there and have over 200 ABs, because both of them, as long as they still stay healthy, should experience 200 ABs. We're not asking them to have fewer than 30 strikeouts in a year. It's, what are you doing when you don't strike out? Or what are you doing? How do the strikeouts look? As stupid as that sounds, are you able to stay disciplined at the plate? Are you able to have longer at-bats, especially for a guy like Case, who might hit out of the 2-hole at times? Are you able to extend at-bats early in the game? And then a pitcher is just able to give him his best stuff against you. There's things like that certainly go into just then more than just like looking at it and saying, hey, you need to have fewer than this number.
Can you turn 5% of your strikeouts into moving a runner?
There you go.
Something like that.
Productive
Either,
ABs.
Productive at bats. And then if it's not going to be the bat to ball approach, if it's going to be the power approach, make sure you don't miss your pitches and capitalize on the ones that you do swing at if you are going to be pickier and more selective. I mean, Case Sanderson, Nick, led Nebraska in walks last year with 31 of them.
Yeah.
Right. So sure, he struck out 42 times in 151 plate appearances, or at bats, I should say, but 31 walks in just 54 games. That's plate discipline. That's a guy that knows the strike zone. Would love to go back and do more of a breakdown of those at bats. And then, Nick, maybe the biggest swing guy for Nebraska to see just how good he is Gabe Swanson, who there was a lot on the table for Gabe, right? With Josh Caron in the lineup as well. We're about to see, I think, really just how good Gabe Swanson is. Had a really good 22, up and down 23. Only ended up playing in 34 games last year, some injuries and whatnot. But when he was in the lineup, I mean, Gabe Swanson hit 327, 8 homers in 34 games. In terms of a per plate appearance, that's pretty good. I mean, 385 on base percentage, but a 653 slugging average.
Yeah.
We know Gabe Swanson has power, but we're about to see if Gabe Swanson is in the Max Anderson, Bryce Matthews camp, where he is at his best when he's surrounded by good players, which all hitters are, right? To be completely fair. Or if the Gabe Swanson we saw from the Big Ten tournament and on last year is capable of being that number 3, 4, or 5 guy in a lineup and being the catalyst, the guy that when the big moment calls for it, he can step up in the big moment throughout the course of the 55 games in the regular season, not just getting on a heater in the week and change for a Big Ten tournament regionals.
I'm curious and I don't want to try to go through every single player and say, hey, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about this guy? But not to throw another one in there, a guy that's not being talked about a whole lot is Josh Overbeek. And for somebody,
why do you think that is?
I'm not entirely sure, because I think that the way that he responded postseason last year and the way he talked to us in the post game after their elimination game and so on and so forth, I would have expected there to be more buzz around him.
I'll give you 2 reasons. Number one, I think it's because he's kind of that heart and soul guy where they take into account more of his soft factors, the leadership. But I also think he's an older guy that people know what to expect from him.
Gotcha. What is that?
I think he's steady. I think he's consistent. I think he's a guy that can be a spark, who's going to give you a good at bat at the top of the order. He kind of strikes me as Will Bolt back in the day, right? That's a guy that I see, good at bats from, who's going to play the game, quote unquote, the right way, going to have the dirtiest uniform, going to be the guy in the middle of the huddle, hyping guys up. I think Nebraska fans feel pretty confident about what they're going to get from Josh Overbeek, and they should talk about him more, but I'm not necessarily surprised there's not the same chatter.
And he feels like your top of the order guy, right?
I think so.
I think he gives Nebraska, and the strikeout numbers were a little high last year. 53 strikeouts and 185 at bats. I mean, a little high, but overall, it felt like he, from a discipline standpoint, was there. He's also a guy that I always think about late innings, and it's who would you like up? Who if you're in the 8th inning trying to mount, or you're down by 1 or it's a tie ball game, and you have 9-1-2. Like, I think the combination of, and we saw it similar in the Oklahoma State regional, the combination of a guy like Rhett Stokes, Joshua Overbeek, and Case Sanderson is as good as you could get to set the table for Cale Frost, Gabe Swanson, and somebody. I mean, whether they move Sanderson down to 3, I think I'm forgetting one in there.
Well, what is Nebraska's best lineup combo? If you have Overbeek at 1, do you like Sanderson at 2, or do you like a bat control doubles guy like Rhett Stokes at 2? Is Stokes good enough at the top of the lineup, or do you like him 7, 8, 9 setting the table again?
I like him 7, 8, 9. I think because of what we saw in Stillwater. Now, I don't want to take so much away from just that weekend, right? Because there's a lot more to pay attention to. I think it's obviously a fluid situation, but I think that there's something unique about Rhett Stokes down there, just because you feel like he's going to give you some quality at bats. With it, I mean, Rhett Stokes last year, you mentioned it. I mean, it was 34 strikeouts and 150 ABs, which isn't too bad, right? He only drew 11 walks, 13 free passes if you want to include hit by pitches on there, but I think you hope that his RBI numbers can kind of get a tick up. But overall, somebody that will hit 360, having that at the bottom of your order, I think is really, really needed for a team like Nebraska, where if the top half of the order isn't getting the job done, who at the bottom half can step up and maybe ignite the top half. And I think Rhett Stokes is one of those.
Let's spend a couple minutes here on the pitching as well. We've done a lot of position players. We know McConaughey's getting the ball. Then it's Ty Horan, Will Walsh, and Jackson Brockett. Haven't spent a lot of time on the bullpen, right? I think a couple of Nebraska guys are going to feature pretty heavily. Obviously, not just Nebraska baseball players, but guys from the state of Nebraska. What's the best role for Tucker Timmerman and Jalen Worthley?
I think Jalen Worthley is going to turn into a high leverage guy for Nebraska. I think we saw them start to transition into that role for him towards the end of the year last year, and he handled it pretty well as a new guy. I think that's going to be the role for him is are you able to give him the ball if he inherits base runners and it's a close ball game? I think he's a guy that has a lot of the trust right now, and rightfully so. For Tucker Timmerman, I would like to say closer. Like I would like to say he'd be the guy that you give it to in the ninth inning. I would also, see him being like the eighth inning guy where it sets up for maybe a Casey Dice or even
Broderick is going to get the first nod at close.
That's what I was thinking. Is Broderick from Iowa Western?
Yeah,
and so Luke Broderick. That's Luke. That's what I was thinking of. Luke Broderick though is probably your closer. So like I don't know how much I trust Tucker Timmerman in a high leverage role. I like Worthley a lot more there.
I do too, especially because he proved it last year. I could see Timmerman. I mean, I just get so many Shea Shanneman vibes from Tucker Timmerman.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
That's the vibe I get.
That's a great comparison.
They're not the same guy, and I want to make that very clear. But Shea Shanneman had one of the nastiest sliders the Big Ten has ever seen.
Yeah.
Shea was the closer. He bounced up and back from a bullpen role to that Sunday guy to a midweek guy, wherever they need him. I think Jalen Worthley can kind of be that fireman, but I would love to see him grow into that role as dependable sort of eighth inning guy. I can see Tucker Timmerman starting as a bulk guy in the midweek, maybe a sixth, seventh guy on the weekends as well. And that's where a guy like Casey Dice, as veteran as he is, Nick, that's a guy that I think could turn into Nebraska's fireman. If he is able to cut it loose for one inning, just say, hey, Casey, we know the moment's not going to be too big for you.
Rear back.
Use your swing and miss stuff. Take the velo up, mile per hour or two. I think with that level of experience from Casey Dice, use him as needed. And whether that's, you got to get out of the fifth inning, got to get out of the sixth inning to bridge. I think Dice can be the fireman bridge guy.
Yeah.
I think Worthley can give you 2. He can give you 7 and 8. We'll see what Luke Broderick gives you. And then, there's some other interesting arms in there, but I think Nebraska should feel pretty good about 1 through 5 in its bullpen at the very least.
We haven't talked once about Drew Christo.
How about that for a statement?
I mean, it's kind of do or die. Like I want to be very clear when I say that. Like I think it's do or die time for Drew Christo, unfortunately, because it's Cubsker asks, who do you guys see as a midweek starter? Instantly my mind goes to him. But for the last 2 seasons, my mind has instantly gone to him.
Yeah.
And time again
hasn't been
able to be him. And so through it all, I think Nebraska's not going to play a lot of 4-game series. So, who from this weekend could we see as like they slide into that midweek role? I think Jackson Brockett gives you a good chance there. I don't know how good I actually feel about either Jackson Brockett or Will Walsh starting for you on a Sunday. I just don't know what the options are.
Which is where Nebraska could potentially turn to Caleb Clark.
Yeah.
What's left for him? I think Clark and Christo are kind of in the same boat. A name that Evan Bland has brought up with me quite a bit, Carson Yassa.
Yep.
Huge dude.
6'7" guy.
6'7", 230, flamethrower out of Colorado.
Yeah.
Ryan Harrahill. Does he give you anything? Grant Cleventry transferred in from Tulane. And then a couple guys, Nick, that D1 Baseball shouted out as impact freshmen are both on the mound. Price Bender and Jay-Sean Unger. Are either of the guys ready to be midweek starters? I would say probably not, but do you give them a crack and see what you have?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe early in the season.
Yeah. I mean, and Nebraska will have chances. Like I look at, so one of their first, they're going to have a midweek matchup against Omaha on March 4th. They'll have one the day after against South Dakota State. It's going to be your prototypical and those usual midweek matchups where it's going to be cold. It's not going to favor hitters. You need to find somebody that goes throw strikes.
Yeah.
Like we cannot put it any more simple for a young guy.
Yeah.
Like go throw strikes and allow your defense to work and you'll be fine. And guess what? Nebraska's offense, I would put them against South Dakota State or I'd put them against Omaha every day of the week. Where Nebraska gets in trouble is when they allow teams to just beat them with walks and errors, free passes. If Omaha wants to hit a bomb on you, go ahead. You tip your cap and say, okay, you beat me on that pitch. Guess what? We got 99 more pitches that we're going to be doing. And I feel better about my stuff against your stuff. That's just where Nebraska's got to be. That's been the issue with midweeks is that you can't find guys consistently who throw strikes. You don't need 95. You need to be able to control 2, not even necessarily 3. You just need to have it every now and then. You need to control 2. You need a fastball. You need some sort of off speed to keep somebody off balance when you're playing midweek games. That's not a lot to ask from even a freshman or a younger guy at this level.
Because you're not expecting 7 innings out.
No.
Especially in a midweek where you want to get guys more work.
Yes.
Can you get, 4 in the third?
Yep.
Maybe 5 on the best start from some of these midweek guys.
And that has nothing to do with your offense, who, by the way, Nebraska only graduated 1 position player. Like we through this all this conversation and through the curiosities and doubts, through it all, graduated just 1 position. Josh Karen.
No. Ben Columbus.
Oh, Ben Columbus. That's right.
Karen was underclassman declared.
Thank you.
So
Thank
Ben
you.
Columbus.
But still, either way, so you're moving on from 2 guys that played roles. Man, like, not to mention, this sets up pretty well for Nebraska. It's going to be, can you throw strikes and win the games you're supposed to win? Because maybe this is the conversation we need to have, Austin, is when Will Bolt says their expectation is to host a regional, how should we view that?
Let's have that conversation to wrap up on the block here in just a sec.
Download our app by searching for 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day wherever you are. More of On the Block next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
At Lincoln Family Chiropractic, they believe everyone deserves to live a pain-free and active life. Whether it's neck pain, shoulder pain, or lower back pain, Lincoln Family Chiropractic specializes in customized care for every patient to promote faster healing, allowing you to get back to an optimal life. Lincoln Family Chiropractic's team specializes in treatments such as dry needling, cupping therapy, and traditional adjustments. Give Lincoln Family Chiropractic a call today, 402-484-5166. Visit them online at lincolnfamilychiro.com or in person, 1 block south of 70th and 8th Street in Lincoln.
Hi, everyone. Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. The last few years have been wild, but we've been here for you through all the ups and downs, and we'll be here for you when you need us the most. For all your travels and for your day-to-day driving. With winter conditions causing problems all over town, the last thing anyone needs this year is constant car troubles. Let us help you drive in peace and make sure you drive to work and to winter destinations safe. A1 Automotive, 11th and L Street downtown, always honest answers.
Automotive Solutions is Lincoln's one-stop shop for all your vehicle needs, from vinyl wraps to engine repair and maintenance. Automotive Solutions offers fleet services, as well as printing and graphic design for vinyl applications, plus installation of vinyl for boats, trucks, cars, and anything else you want wrapped. Perfection is their standard, and they never settle for less. Call today at 531-249-5600 or go to automotivesolutionslincoln.com to learn more. That's Automotive Solutions, 2024 Southwest 5th Street in Lincoln.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits is your place in North Lincoln to go for all your needs in wine, spirits, and beer. They also have a large variety of cigars in their walk-in humidor, and they have a top-notch walk-in, temperature-controlled, high-end wine bar. Plus, you can enjoy free samples from their tasting bar. There's only one place to go for all your needs for wine, beer, spirits, and cigars. Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits on North 27th Street in Lincoln.
Load up on meat and more this winter at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's special through February 11th is $2 off burgers, limit of 2, 20% off sauces and spices, and 5 pounds of 75/25 ground beef for $20, limit of 2 while supplies last. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com.
Garage doors can break down or quit working at the worst times. At Doors Plus, they understand that a broken garage sometimes means repair and not replace. Sometimes, all you need to make your door like new again is a few bolts, realignment, or even a new balance. Trust the pros at Doors Plus to handle your garage door repair the right way so you can get on with your busy schedule. Visit them online at doorsplusllc.com or give them a call at 402-590-5800.
Now back to On the Block with Eric Strickland, Jay Foreman, and Austin Orman.
Back one final time here during On the Block before we turn it over to DP and Husker Wrestling for Takedown Tuesday. This final segment of the show brought to you by Love Volleyball Omaha. Their season runs through April, but don't miss your chance to see some national champions, some national team players, and some Olympians at the Liberty First Credit Union Arena in Ralston. Tickets available at lovboma.com. Nick, you raised a good question. Will Bolt has said the goal is to host a regional.
Yep.
Said it year after year, said it again in his preseason conversation this year. How do you take those comments? How do we look at this Nebraska baseball team through that lens?
At some point, you have to hold them to it. Like, I think it's important. Like, we have the conversation with Husker basketball every year of, okay, what's the expectation? We have that conversation without an expectation that a coach clearly lays out for us.
Yeah.
Will Bolt is not shy about it. He said the same thing when he got here, and he's saying the same thing now entering into his 6th year. At some point, we have to hold him to that. And I think Nebraska has the team this year, the best chance that they've had the previous 5.
Yeah, since 21.
Since 21, this team gives them the best chance to do that.
I think that's totally fair. And to be completely fair, every year is different, right? Whether you look at the NCAA tournament bubble, you look at the hosting situation for baseball, it won't necessarily be an on-its-face failure if Nebraska doesn't host a regional this year, right? But it would come into account how it happened. Did Nebraska get better in the midweek and SEC teams were just better? Did an ACC team come out of nowhere and get more benefit of the doubt? That's one thing. But if Nebraska doesn't host a regional because it fell maybe a little bit short in Big Ten play, or Nebraska didn't pick it up in midweeks, that would be a huge missed opportunity with a team like this.
And I think lastly is that another thing is, it matters how other teams play.
Yeah.
It matters how the SEC looks. It matters how many teams the ACC has ranked in the top 25. Those things matter. And those are out of Nebraska's control, which is why it's important for Nebraska to get going quick this Friday, UC Irvine.
It'll be fun.
Here we go.
UC Irvine, Vanderbilt, San Diego State, and then Grand Canyon before the Huskers hit the road for taking on Louisiana again, I believe, right after that. So they'll spend a long time there down south in Arizona, Louisiana, and Texas before the first game in Nebraska, a month, 1 week less than a month.
Yeah,
Tuesday,
3 weeks
March
away.
4th. So
3 weeks from today.
We're getting there. About 3 minutes from now, Takedown Tuesday with Husker Wrestling. Thanks to Nick for filling in. I'm Austin Norman. This is On the Block. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Hey volleybalfans, this is Laura Dijkema, national player of the Netherlands, and now the setter on Omaha's newest professional team, Love Omaha Volleyball. League volleyball is bringing the heat this year. Don't miss your chance to see Olympians, national players, and national champions right here in